Hey Hoodies, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we are doing a complete collection tour and declutter. I know this is going to be a long one. There's going to be a lot to go through since we are going through my entire makeup collection and decluttering and talking about things. I'm swatching things. That's what we're going to be doing. If you are new to my channel, hello, welcome. I know a lot of people, my dog just came down the steps. Hello. I know a lot of people really love watching declutters, but my channel is typically about loving my makeup collection as it currently is and just using the makeup that I have. Now, I'm not the best of it. I do have a larger collection. I'm not like a minimalist by any means, but I do try to be really discerning about what I bring into my makeup collection. And obviously throughout the year, I have brought in some makeup. I was doing a makeup budget this year, and this is the culmination of the whole year's work. So if that's the kind of content that sounds interesting to you, I would love to have you subscribe. It's a great time to subscribe. All of my year-end countdowns are going up. My last one will go up sometime this week. So if you're interested, I would love to have you stick around. Make sure you like this video. It will help it get into the eyes of others. This is a longer video, so I would really appreciate any love or comments that I get on this video. The decluttered makeup is spoken for. I'm gonna do a trickle down effect. Anything that I feel comfortable passing on will get passed on to people. There are a couple things I declutter that are pretty old and I'm not feeling comfortable enough to pass those on to people, so those will just get recycled. I'm also on patreon.com if you would like to support me there. You know, going into the new year, I have some different plans than what I had going on this year, so I would love to have you support me there, but no pressure. I'm so happy that you are here. I think that's really it. Let us get into the declutter. Here we go. So I'm gonna start with this tray. This is something that lives in my top drawer. There's like a random assortment of things, and we'll go through it category by category, but I don't really know how interesting or how long each section is gonna be. But we're gonna go ahead and do that. We're gonna figure it out, and let's just get going. Here's everything that I use as eyeshadow primers, and I'm just going to I'm going to talk a little bit about each thing. Sorry, my table isn't super even, so things are rolling. Anyway, this is the NYX glitter primer. I like to use this for any textured eyeshadows, like multi-chromes and things like that. It works really well for me. It reminds me a lot of the Too Faced glitter primer, but this one's like $6, and I utilize it all the time, whether or not I talk about utilizing it on the channel, but yes, gets a lot of play. I'm going to be decluttering this. This is the Pat McGrath Intensifies Artistry Wand. Back in the day, I did an eyeshadow primer review and talked about all of my eyeshadow primers and kind of like broke down what I used each one for. And this one was really nice for multi-chromes, but it doesn't add any kind of longevity. It is like this clear thing. I like don't know what to call it. It's just like a clear thing, and it kind of just makes your eyes silicone-y. So it really is great for multi-chromes, but this seems more like a makeup artist tool rather than a consumer tool, especially for people who like want their makeup to last all day. I don't think this is good for that, but I do think for like if you were doing editorial eye looks, I think this would be a helpful tool, but it's not like the Pent Ultimate. This almost does the same thing. This also kind of gets rid of texture, the Pat McGrath, whereas this maintains texture, and I really like textured eyeshadows. So if you have some textured shadows you want to smooth out, this might be worthwhile, but again, I don't think this adds any kind of like longevity to eyeshadow, so this isn't it. And if you want to hear more detailed reviews of this or any of the eyeshadow primers, although I think most of the ones I talk about in that video I don't have anymore, please check out that video, but I'm gonna declutter that. I bought that this year, so I feel confident that a friend of mine would be willing to try it. Here are my two like traditional eyeshadow primers. This year I bought the Too Faced because I ran out of my Air Atelier, and Air Atelier no longer exists. But I am testing this Blink eyeshadow primer, so I'm gonna hold on to both of these. Whenever I decide which one I like more, I'm gonna just keep that one and then pass on the other one. This is the MAC Paint Pot and Painterly, and after using the Air Atelier and the Too Faced eyeshadow primer and even the Blink eyeshadow primer, my oily eyelids don't really give this a chance. Now it does a better job than whatever eyeshadow primer I was using at the beginning of my makeup career. For it being a MAC Paint Pot, that's a lot of usage. These things last forever, and I'm pretty sure my friend Tiffany still uses paint pots as eyeshadow primer, so I think they'll get some use out of it, but I don't think I need this anymore because I just showed you that I have 6 or 7 eyeshadow primers, and I don't need this one because I'm not really reaching for it anymore. I do like that this gives you some coverage. It's not so translucent compared to some of the other formulas I talked about, but I don't need this, and it's time. And this really isn't an eyeshadow primer. This is the Ritual Defee Black Orb, and I use this for a base for like when I'm doing like something really, really smudgy and dark, and it works for that. I don't think this is the best thing. I don't think this is something that you need to run out and buy and use as a deep eyeshadow base, but it is what I have at this time, and it does kind of give you that grungy, creasy, smeary-eyed look. That's it for primers. These are all of my glitters and I do want to be realistic, so we're gonna go through them. I just realized that I have 2 red ones from Pat McGrath, although this one has some blue in it. I don't use glitter all the time, but I do use glitter sometimes, and I like to have a variety. I do like these on the lips, and that's what they were from, some of the Pat McGrath lip kits. So I think I'm gonna hold on to both of these, but I am interested in getting rid of some glitter today. This really isn't a glitter, this is like a pigment, and it's really pretty. And so I'll tap this into the lips sometimes, or sometimes I'll throw it on the eye. I have no idea if this is eye safe or not. You know, I'm not gonna sue Pat McGrath over it if I hurt myself. I'm not super interested in this color glitter. This was like from one of the lip kits as well. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna open all these and be like, wow, glitter, it's so pretty. But I don't think I'm gonna utilize that, and I have a friend who does drag and he'll appreciate additional glitters. Speaking of glitter that I think I can get rid of, I've had this for some time and it is a really pretty holographic glitter. I like silvers and I like holo, but like this just like isn't my jam anymore, and it's not something I'd press into my lips, and it's not something I would bother to get adhesive out to put on my eyes. So I think it's also time for this to go. And these glitters are not cheap. This one's definitely staying. This is from Lemonhead LA. This is their Space Paste in Houdini. And what's great about this is when it's on the skin, and you can see like this one has the biggest dip of any of my glitters, and it's a big jar of glitter. This is one of those ones whenever you put it on the skin, depending on how light's hitting it, you might not be able to see it or not, and it's really, really pretty. And I do even throw this onto some of my regular eyeshadow looks because it's like glitter, but sometimes it's not there. And on top of like lavender looks, this is what does it for me. This is a new glitter to me. I gifted my friend some glitters from Lit because they were doing half off glitters for Black Friday, and my friend's birthday happens to fall like right after Black Friday, so it works out in my favor. But this was a gift with purchase color, and I haven't utilized this yet, and it's really pretty. I want to at least try it before I decide that I do not want it. Okay, here's where I'm going to get picky. So I'm just going to open all of these. I don't know if you can tell on camera which of these has like more dent in it than others, but one of the ones that has the biggest dent is this orange one. This actually replaced a lip glitter I had called Vitamin C, which I really, really liked, but I like these because they have the gel adhesive in them. Now, sometimes I still do lay down another adhesive because the adhesive is a little bit dry, a little bit crumbly. I've had these for a couple of years, and they do sell a rehydrator, but I can do with what I have. I don't need to buy the rehydrator, but I do often reach for this orange one, so I'm going to keep it. Another one that I reach for a lot is this shade. This is the shade Mermaid Scales, and this is kind of something I'll throw on the inner corner if I just feel like my eyeshadow needs like a bump up. It's just so gorgeous. And I'm sorry I'm not swatching the glitters. I'll swatch other things, but like I don't want to, I'm starting my declutter. This is my first take, right? So I'm starting with the glitters, and I don't want to have glitter all over my hands for the rest of this. So I'm gonna keep Mermaid Scales. I'm gonna have to say goodbye to this one. This is the shade Shrek is Love, which is a beautiful green, and this was a collaboration with the drag performer Bitch Puddin'. And I love Bitch Puddin'. That's not the kind of green that's my jam. I'm so excited to see that Bitch Puddin' was collaborating with someone, so I was like, I would love to support them. But I'll just buy their merch because that's probably a better way for me to interact with it. Surprisingly, another one that I get a lot of use out of is this pink one, because whenever I want to do pink, I like really want to do pink, and look at how much I've used. It's like almost past the like twist on cap, and I believe these are the smaller sizes from Slayfire. They have a bigger size that I would never run through one. This is the color Girls, 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 so I'll keep that one. This one is another really pretty one to put on top of lilac looks. It's the shade Shidori, and it's really, really pretty. And you can see some of that hint of blue. It's super icy, and it's gorgeous, and I use this one I know I use this one a lot. Here's another one I have some good usage out of. I don't do a lot of purple, but again, kind of like when I do pink, when I want to do purple, I am going for glitter. And this is really gorgeous, and I think I will continue to use that. I do think I can say goodbye to this one. This is the Cerberus shade, and it's a beautiful blue glitter, but I think I've kind of discussed on my channel a number of times how much or how little I'm actually using blue glitter, so or blue just in general on my eyes, so I think I can pass on that one. This is probably my favorite shade from them. This is the Life on Mars shade, and it's like a duochrome. Oh, it's so pretty. Although I haven't really figured out best practices for it, but you can tell I've tried. It doesn't have as big of a dig in it as some of the other shades I showed you, but this one is too pretty to pass on, I feel. So these are some adhesives that I use in like mixing mediums. This was something that came with my lit purchase, and I didn't give it to my friend. I think he would never use this, by the way. He probably has some adhesive that he likes better than this. I'm gonna keep this to try it out with the glitter that I got from Lit, so I'm just gonna hold on to that. The Mayron mixing liquid, which someone did ask me relatively recently to do a video on how I like to use it. I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna use it probably in like a Let's Play with Makeup, and when I'm doing that, I will show you how I use the Mayron mixing medium. I'm not gonna say that I do it right. It's just how I do it, okay? These are both lash adhesives. This one's from Bouquet Beauty. This is a Australian brand, and he's friends, Jacob is the name of the person who owns this company. He's friends with the girls from Beauty News, and he like has a lash line, and I did buy some lashes from him. I liked his lashes, but I'm not really a lash wearer, and I actually mostly use this adhesive for glitter whenever I want it in a specific place. So I think I'm just gonna throw this away. It's old, it's kind of gummed up. This one is from Silly George. This is like the kind of adhesive where there's like a pen on the end. It's actually clear adhesive, but I always have black liner down, so it kind of turned the pen black, which is fine. I think giving it a couple goes will get rid of the black, and that's my fault. I probably should clean it after everyone. But I'm gonna hold on to this as my adhesive that I'm gonna keep. I'm not really a lash wearer, but I do have one pair, and so this one's easier than the Bouquet Beauty, and it's newer. These are the 3 mascaras that I have right now that are open, which I hate because I'm normally someone who keeps one mascara open. I have used this for almost 3 months, and I like to change mine out every 3 months. So this one has hit its limit essentially. We're almost at the end of the year here, and I bought this in October, so October, November, December. This it's a tubing mascara. Now I also have another tubing mascara. I'm gonna be doing a video on Blink in the new year because they asked me to. And they are paying me to. So I'll be doing a video on Blink, but I am reviewing it. I'm still testing it out. So I really like this mascara. Now, it's not a tubing mascara in the way where like whenever you're washing your face at the end of the night and you're using warm water to take it off, that it comes off in tubes, but it all comes off. And I really like the way my lashes look in it. It's like it provided lots of drama, and you could layer it up and just make it more dramatic, and I really enjoyed it. Plus the component's really nice and heavy, and I've actually turned a couple of friends onto this, and my one friend had been using the Pat McGrath Fetish Eyes for years, and she tried this and she was like, I think I'm a convert. So just know that this is really good. People in my real life have tried it because of my recommendation. I recommend it if you were looking for a mascara that you can take all the way off but lasts throughout the day. Really, really liked this. Definitely foresee myself purchasing it again in the future. I got this in the middle of October, so I feel comfortable using this until the end of January. And I didn't hate this Pillow Talk mascara as much as many other people did. So to me, this is completely usable for an additional month. So I'm just going to hold on to it. But after that month, then I'm going to pass it on. And as I just said, I'm doing a video on Blink early in the new year, but this is their tubing mascara. This is their amplified tubing mascara. I probably will just hold my opinions until that video, but yeah, I'm holding on to this because I'm testing it. This is brown, so I have a brown and a black now, which I don't know if that's something that I would do moving forward, but it is something that's happening now. I'm just pulling this on camera to show you. This is my one pair of lashes. They're so sad. They're so sad. I never use them. Look at them. They're just so sad. They need clean desperately too, which is something I'm not very good at because I don't wear lashes all the time, so I don't even think about it as a concept. I don't think about like washing my eyelashes. These are all my lip and eyeliners. First things first, I'm gonna get on with the one that's off of the side here. This is a gel liner from Blink. It's in the shade black, and I've been testing it. Both alert. I have been liking it, but I think I just like it because I like gel potted liner, and I didn't know that before I tried this, but I'm having a good time. Let's start with something I knew that I'm getting rid of. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Duo eyeliner, and if you watched my Charlotte Tilbury series, then you know that this and I did not get along. So I'm gonna declutter this, but what I really want to do is throw it away because I don't even want to pass it on to a friend. It feels more like an insult than a favor. I have two blue eyeliners. This one's from Pat McGrath, and it is the shade Blitz Blue. And it has a little bit of shimmer to it. I don't know if it's picking up in the lighting here. And I also have this one from Kofi, and I got this one this year in PR. Okay, so here's the thing. I have used both of these interchangeably, and I didn't think they were that different, but now that they're swatched, this is so much lighter and this is so much deeper. I'm gonna give myself a little more time with both of these. I really thought I was gonna get rid of Blitz Blue because it is older, but like, I think I could be utilizing Blitz Blue more than I have. And I've been getting into eyeliner a little bit more recently, so I'm okay keeping both. And I actually think I'm gonna end up keeping the rest of these. So this is Black Coffee. As you can see, I have absolutely utilized this compared to some other things. It's been sharpened many times, but this is just like a blackened brown, but it still holds its own as a brown. It still is more brown than it is black, and it's a really beautiful color. And someone just recently complimented my eyes after I put that on, which was nice. And then one last eyeliner. This is Tiger Queen from Kofi, and this is my favorite eyeliner. Just that shade. It's so interesting. It's this beautiful red terracotta, which is like so weird. So such a weird shade for an eyeliner, but it's so beautiful, and I've been getting on with it swimmingly. I have three lip liners from Pat McGrath. This is Buff. This is Supernatural. And this is Ground Control. I don't have too many lip liners. I mean, you could see that I really don't have too many liners at all. I am testing another lip liner that I think will replace one of these. It'll replace Ground Control. And as you can see, Ground Control is like the lip liner that I've used the most. It's much shorter than the other two, but Supernatural also gets a lot of play. Buff, interestingly, is very similar to my lip shade, and I use it the least, but I'm gonna hold on to these because I just don't have that many lip liners. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Lip Cheat in Hollywood Honey. And I said in my video, like, this is kind of being labeled as a brown, but you can see that it is very much not brown. But I'm gonna keep this. I really got on well with the lip cheat formula. And then this is from Patrick Ta, and it's in the shade She's Hard to Get, which is like a bright pink. I'm gonna keep this for now, but if we get to the lipsticks and I decide to declutter the lipstick of it, which I haven't really decided on, I've actually been thinking about it before I even started this declutter, and I was like, oh, should I declutter that? And I haven't made up my mind. Oh, I forgot two eyeliners because I don't keep them in with the rest of everything. But I'm gonna keep both of these. These are two Surratt Autographique liners. I have Noir, which is just a beautiful black. And then I think this is just called Porpra. I don't know what it's called, but this is like a deep, deep, deep purple. Did I swatch the same one twice? I might have. It's a deep purple, it looks black. Anyway, yeah. So there's the black, there's the purple. They're not far off each other. I don't use liquid liner all the time, but I don't have an excess of them, and if I ever really decide that I want to mess with it, at least I have them. I have 3 beauty sponges, and they're all ancient, and I need to buy a new one, so I'm just going to throw these away. So I remember to buy a new one, because I'm like, they're embarrassingly old. A couple of those beauty blenders might have been a couple of years old. Like, gross. Gross, gross. I also have this thing, and I never use it. I'm gonna declutter it. I'm gonna clean it and then pass that on to someone, but I don't think I need that anymore. I have this Little Fix Plus, and I'm going to just actually put this on my vanity now because I'll forget to use it, but I'll use it before, and then it's actually made of glass, so I will recycle that when I'm done. Here's a random assortment of tools. These tweezers are bad, so I'm just gonna throw them out. I have a set of nice tweezers. These are mud makeup tweezers. I got them in beauty school, but they are actually are pretty nice. I'm gonna hold on to my lash curler, even though I don't believe in lash curling. But every now and then I'll do a becoming video and someone's curling their lashes, so I go through the effort of pretending that I'm going to do it. A sharpener that needs desperately emptied. I bought this from Shop Miss A, and I don't know if this helps me put on lashes or not, but it sure is a thing that I have, isn't it? I'm gonna keep it. These are my 2 lip balms. This one sits at my work desk and it's almost done. And it's the Mario Badescu Mint Lip Balm. This comes in not mint, but this is a really nice lip balm. I don't believe in Mario Badescu or the larger Mario Badescu Cinematic Universe. I would never use anything else by them. I heard someone say that it feels really luxe, and it does. I don't like this kind of like application method though. It's like not my favorite. The product inside is absolutely lovely. And this is the Auric, what are these called? The Auric Bear Plush Ritual, so it's the one that doesn't have any tint to it. But it looks like, I love this. I don't use the jade thing. It's really funny because I was trying to go through the motion of that I was going to be the person who uses the jade thing. And then I was watching a video by State of Kate, and she was like, if I had this, I would never use the applicator, and I just stick my fingers in there, and it's fine. But I'm going to keep both of these. This is one of the trays done. There's another tray that I have the glitters that I put them into, but I was doing one thing at a time. Now we're gonna move on to single eyeshadows and smaller eyeshadow palettes. Here are all of my single eyeshadows, and here are some of my smaller eyeshadow palettes. My plan is to move all of my smaller eyeshadow palettes up into this drawer because I think of them more as one and done situations because I kind of do the same look with them every time. So I don't really know what I'm gonna end up getting rid of here, but maybe we'll get rid of something. Here's things that I know to be true. I'm not gonna get rid of the Charlotte Tilbury Pops of Luxury. Like, this is just a dream for me. Like, 4 beautiful sparkly shadows. Ooh, not the best swatches, but like, that butters my biscuit. So I'm gonna keep that. This is the Uptown Girl Charlotte Tilbury quad. It's like one of her regular quads. Really into this color story. It's not even really worth swatching. They look like this on my skin. So, and there's another, there's another pop in there for me, which again, really does it for me. This is Smoky Quartz from Charlotte Tilbury. If you've been around long enough, you know. If you know, you know. I mean, that's everything to me. It's all I want. That's all I want in this world. And Cosmic Rocks is also staying, but not as fantabulous to me as Smoky Quartz. It too does something for me. And I'm hoping that I kind of get my eyeshadow situation in order, which is not really gonna come with any of these. Not gonna come with any of these, I don't think. But I think my palettes I'm gonna go a little hard on. I'm gonna try to. But I'm gonna keep that. It's still newer to my collection. Okay, here's the Pat McGrath Ultra Suede Brown. It's a beautiful cream brown eyeshadow, but the special stuff with this eyeshadow is the other stuff in my collection. Like, it came with like these pigments to make it really sparkly and really beautiful, and an eyeliner, and this by itself isn't that great, so I'm gonna pass this on to someone. And that is newer to me. I know it's an old product, but it wasn't really opened until this year or late last year. So I have both Rowan quads still. I did get rid of 75 Degrees earlier. This is the 1111, and this is the Love of My Life. This shade up here, I mean I have glitter all over me. That's just the nature of the eyeshadows I like, but these for a one and done day in the sun, I'm into it, and I'm very keen on keeping that one. Then I also have the 52 Degrees, and again, just another stunning cool toned sparkle situation. I'm into all 8 of these shades, so that will be sticking around. I'm really trying to wipe my hands off, and it's just, this is it. So if you see glitter in something that might not have glitter in it, that's why. I'm gonna wash my hands between this segment and the next segment. So while we're talking about glittery things, this is new, and I haven't really talked about this on my channel yet, but this is Fractal Freesia from Phytosurgeons, and it's one of their eyeshadows. And I bought it with some of my remaining budget for the year. It's gonna be really hard to see. It's subtle, but it has a little bit of a, you know, golden hue to it. But I have been enjoying it so far. And obviously it's still new, and this is like the first time you're seeing it on my channel, so we're gonna hold off on kind of any kind of judgment day decision there. And the ultraviolet blue pigment from Pat McGrath, I don't have the heart to get rid of this, and I know I don't use it a lot, but it's one of those things that is my precious, and I'm hoping I have a plan on how I want to work with my eyeshadows next year, and so I'm hoping to get more use out of all of my eyeshadows, including singles, next year in like a more realistic way. So this, I think, will get some play next year, and if not, I will have to get rid of it the following year. The Smoke Reflect in Ego. Okay, so I've enjoyed playing with this. I really have, and I'm really thankful to the subscriber who decided to send this to me because it didn't work for them. And it's a beautiful product. There is a world who I want to be the person where I would use this all the time, but it's not the perfect product for me as far as like what I'm doing. And I think that if I had the right shade of it, and I really think this shade is really, really super cool. I really do. And I think this, again, I think this is a really quality product, and it kind of got me into 1 in 10 shadows. I'm not utilizing this a lot, and I have powder shadows that I think have more interesting grays, that if I were gonna do a 1 in 10 eyeshadow with like a sparkly gray situation, it wouldn't be with this. That wouldn't be what I would reach for. And I have a feeling that a friend of mine would get on with that a lot better than me. I'm going to keep both of these. I don't utilize these all the time, but I am less afraid of them than I once was. There was a time where I was like, I'll never use these, but I do use them. And my favorite way to use them is if I do a neutral look, I will put these on the inner corner. That's like my favorite way to wear them. And I have the shade, that's the shade Jelly Bean, the orange one. And then this pink shade is the shade Rainbow, which they do get clogged sometimes, which is a little bit nervous making, but these are really cool, really super pigmented. And I do want the yellow one of that because I will use the yellow one more than these two, but the yellow one was out of stock when I bought these, but I can see myself buying the yellow one next year. And I do put them all over the eyes. They're pretty fun 1 and dones, but like also utilizing them as a look all together is like really, really fun. I really wanted to love these Unseen Beauty pigments, and they're really cool. I'm not gonna be able to do it on camera with you because I've explained this in my countdown of all the products I tried this year, but you need to, it's something that's really cool if you're on Instagram and you're utilizing flash and you're like doing lots of stuff like that, but it does not pick up on this camera whenever you try to do it. And so if I can't utilize it on like this, and in real life, like if a flash hits it, nothing happens. It only really happens in the photography or the video you're taking with your phone with the flash on. If you're new to these, that's what they do. They reflect light back into the camera. And so the black one reflects back silver, and then there's a clear one essentially, but it's called gray, and it flashes back that silver too, but it's kind of transparent when it goes onto the skin. So these are really, really cool in concept. I'm not the one who's gonna get a lot of use out of them, but I really wanna be the person who does. Like, I wanna be that cool. This is the Victoria Beckham Smoky Eye Brick in the shade Tweed, and I really thought I was going to declutter this last year. I've used this a lot this year as like 1 and done. My mirror fell out, which I don't love, but I love this. It's so easy, and I really like it when I'm using something really warm and sparkly. If I don't have anything to go with it, I love to use this in conjunction with it, and I do like it, and I think her eyeshadow formula is beautiful. Boring, but really beautiful. Okay, that's it for the top drawer. I'm going to I should clean this, but I'm gonna clean it. I was like, I don't want to. These are some of the glitters I already got reckoned with. Isn't it really funny how things don't look dirty when they're in your vanity, and then you take them out and it's like, it's the filthiest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. There's some like hair in there that I can't get out, which is like gross, but it is my truth. That's it for this drawer. We're gonna move on to my next drawer. Let me show you all the stuff that I am either throwing away or decluttering. This is what's getting thrown away. And here is, this box is also gross, so excuse that. But here's everything that I am passing on to friends. Here is everything that I would use as a primer or something to mix in with a foundation to alter its appearance. So I'm going to work my way from the middle outward because these two products are anchoring everything. First things first, I am going to part with the Dr. Chart Dissipore BB cream. The thing is, it's really lovely and I really like it. It is starting to smell and it's been in my collection for a while. It's a product that has SPF in it, and the efficacy of the SPF is not really something I'm concerned about, but the fact that it's starting to be stinky little boy means that I don't think I should have it in my collection anymore. I would consider rebuying this. I really like it, and I like it just as a complexion product, as a foundation, but I used it more as a primer, or like mixing it in with the Auric was always something that was really lovely. I think if I were to buy this again, I don't know if they make this in a smaller size, like a travel size. I think that would be more handy. I don't think I would need another full size of this. So I would love to see this come back in my life, but I don't think that I'm gonna be the one who makes that happen. The Laneige Glowy Makeup Serum. Okay, I love this. I really do. It sparked a lot of things. If you were here last year whenever I was using all my makeup before 2022, and I was trying to get to know my makeup collection better, this was something I pulled out of my skincare bin and started using because it is, to be used as a primer. And I loved it. And I think what this did is it opened the doors from some future products that I'll talk about in a second to really allow me to enjoy them. And I still think this is a really beautiful product. And I'm not going to keep it though. I'm going to pass it on to my friend. And I still highly recommend this, especially to someone who might have oily skin, who wants to try the glow without really getting into oils, because this almost feels like dry. It doesn't really stay wet on the face like the oils would, but I do think this is like a nice stepping stone, and honestly not as expensive as some of the other things here to try to really get into the gig. My friend Tiffany really just got into this, and so I can pass this on to them, so hopefully they feel confident enough to use. I know they bought this on my recommendation, but it'll be nice for them to have a backup. Stick with me here. I have some rationale. So I think both the Thorn Oil and the Great Skin from Merit do a lot of the same things. Personally, I would buy the Merit again over the Thorn Oil. So the Thorn Oil, as you can see, it's kind of like separated here, and you're supposed to shake it to activate it, and it will get like a deeper red color. So it turns into that. But here's something I don't like. I can't get all of the mixed in. And I don't know if I'm supposed to be able to, but like something about the function of this isn't really elegant. And I don't really love a dropper mechanism, but it is what they have decided to go with. I have really enjoyed this product. I'm gonna keep this, and I'm also going to keep Merit's Great Skin because I think I can pan them both. I have been reaching more for oil-based primers as opposed to, my Bobbi Brown recently, so I think they will both get used. I'm going to just kind of work on the Thorn Oil, which I've used quite a bit of so far. I would say I'm almost halfway there, and the Merit Great Skin is really, really new to me. Both of them are a really luxe experience. I would say the Merit feels better in the hand. Both are glass, but I like the pump, although this pump isn't the best pump either on the Merit, by the way. Whenever they do something so similar, for $38, I'd sooner buy the $38 one than the $77 one. If you were wanting to try, I think it's a similar experience, and I think this one just kind of provides a little bit more overall as opposed to the Ritual Defee. I have the Auric Glow Lust in the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, and I'm going to keep the Auric. But I do think that the Flawless filter is lovely. And if you are someone who lives in a country where it's really hard to get Auric shipped to you and you have Charlotte Tilbury available to you, it's very similar. It's very similar. I don't like the wand on the Flawless filter, because mostly what I do with the Auric is I mix it into my foundations. I'll use it as a highlighter sometimes, but I like the coverage and the blur that the Auric Glow Lust provides versus the Charlotte Tilbury, which is much thinner and it's much more yellow on the skin. This is definitely much lighter. It's a better match for me overall. And I just like this glow a lot more than this one. I have number 2 in the Hollywood Flawless filter, and I have More Goodnight in the Glow Lust. I reach for this Glow Lust all the time. In fact, I'm fairly certain I'm past the A in the packaging. That's how much I've used, and I've only had it for a small portion of the year. So it is getting a lot of use in my collection, and I think I can pass this on and someone will find it very lovely and enjoyable. But I certainly don't need both because I'm going to use them for the same thing. And the wand is what really inhibits me from being, you can mix it by smearing it all over a mixing palette, but I don't want to do that. I think a pump is just a better application method for this, especially with the thickness of both products. It just makes more sense to me for it to be in a pump. And then I have the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. This is the big honkin' guy. I just replaced my last one because I used it up. I've dug into this one a little bit, but this is my baseline primer. So whenever I am trying foundations or anything, this is what I like to have on hand to try them first before I would jump into an oil primer, just because this is like my most neutral primer. It's just really lovely, and I like to use this one on nights where I'm going to have like a long night and I want my makeup to last a little bit longer, because there is a certain gripping quality to this that I really like, but not as strong as like Milk Hydro Grip, but it is a very lovely product and it smells so good. And I will tell you this, the bigger one comes in glass. The smaller one comes in a plastic. I don't know what's up with that. It feels nicer than the smaller one, I will say that. It's enormous. It's gonna take me a long time to get through that. This isn't my only sunscreen. This is the sunscreen I keep in my vanity. So a company reached out to me earlier this year and sent me PR. And it was a K-beauty company that's like kind of like Yes Style, but it wasn't Yes Style. And I read some reviews of the company after they sent me PR, and it seems like a lot of people were having issues with shipping from them. And I understand that like shipping from Korea is going to take longer overall, but it sounded like there was like a lot of issues that many people had. So I didn't feel comfortable doing a video about the brand. It's not this brand, but about the company that offered to send me PR. But this is the Misha Aqua 50, and this wears really beautifully under makeup. It is a very, very nice SPF. I'm not super picky about SPFs, so maybe once I try more SPFs, I will have more feelings, but I thought this was really lovely. Let's just get into this. If you watch my countdown of my makeup, I talked about how much I love this, and I really do. This is the Merit Perfecting Complexion Stick. I have it in the shade Slip. I'm just going to apply it over my tattoo so you can see what it looks like and see the coverage of it. It's a pretty nice light coverage, does some blurring, really, really enjoy it. I do think that you should use this with an oil-based primer or something that has a lot of slip. That's when it's at its best. Or if you have oily skin and when you wash your face, you still have lots of oil on your face, then I think you get along with this. But yeah, this isn't going anywhere. I use it all the time. Another thing that I use more than I thought I would, if you saw my original video on this Ritual Defeat 3-drop foundation, it confused me and confuddled me. But at some point over the year after I got it, I started using it again because it was just like in my drawer, and I really got on with it. And I don't know who I would recommend this to, because it's just such a strange product, and I do feel as though it takes a while to get used to, and it took me a while to get used to. Is the 3 drops is really enough for me, and it really looks really good. It just like does a lot of evening, really super light coverage. You got to make sure you shake it up though. That was like my big qualm, was that like I felt like I had to shake it up more, but I do feel now that I've like had it for a while, it doesn't require as like much shaking as it did in the beginning. But it is like a very a very strange formula, and it like looks so dark, but it's one of those things that they promise that like shifts to your skin tone when you blend it out, and you can see that it kind of does, because it's like from here to here. It does have a very herbaceous scent. This is, if you've never heard of Ritual Defeat or like their lab sample releases, basically they give these lab sample releases. They don't give them out, but you buy the lab sample. It's like at much less of a cost than they would charge, and they ask for feedback. And I don't like the scent of it, and I imagine that the scent would be, well, scents in Ritual Defeat products, it's actually kind of a joy kill for a lot of people who tried the brand, because everything does have like a scent to it. This one has like a like patchouli, frankincense kind of scent to it, and it does dissipate. It doesn't stick around, but it is a little bit shocking every time you put it on, and you can see that it's less coverage than the Merit, but it just does like a really beautiful job at evening out the skin. I've got on with it really well, and I found that it wears really well, and even on my oily skin, I find that it's a beautiful product. I really enjoy it. Okay, I think it's pretty easy for me to say goodbye to this. I didn't like it, and I'm excited to pass it on to someone, hopefully that will like it, but this formula is super thick, and you know, it just isn't the foundation. There's something to it, but it's not for me. Like I don't love it. And if you really want to see my in-depth review of it, I have a full video reviewing this. I'm good on that. So I'm gonna declutter the Chantecaille. I am. This is the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation, and it is a very lovely formula, and everything about it is very, very nice. However, I don't like that it's in a tub, and I'm going to show you something else that's kind of in a tub right now, but throughout the year, I haven't found myself reaching for it very much. And I found that I had to like force myself to use it. So while I think it's really beautiful, and I think anyone who tries it that hasn't tried it will really like it and get along with it and have a good time with it, whenever it was competing against the 3-drop foundation or the Merit Perfecting Complexion Stick, both products which were much less expensive than this, and I'm reaching for them more, it just means this isn't the product for me. And it's a beautiful product, and it's not getting the love in my collection that it deserves. So I do think my friend Tiffany will be able to use this as a match, and we'll get on with it and have a good time with it. I also felt like the undertone was really kind of wrong for me. That too is a hindrance to it. Now in here, if you're new here, I love the Surratt Dewdrop foundation, and that's what's in here. And no, this isn't what it comes in. I hate the component. They need to fix it. Put it in a pump. I don't know why it couldn't be in a pump. I think they were just trying to do something unique, and I just think that that component is a big fail. So my component broke. So there's like a little rubber thing you push on the back of it to make the product come out. However, here's why I'm keeping this. 1, it's my favorite foundation. 2, even though it's in the tub, I reach for it more than I reach for the Chantecaille. I really do. And I think I probably have a better match in the Surratt. Like, this is a little bit yellow, but even then, still reaching for it more than I was reaching for the Chantecaille. And that's why it's my favorite foundation. I also have a full review of this, and I also talk about the component. And in that video, the component is intact. It was before I broke it. And someone did say that they had that happen to them with the Surratt, and they reached out to Surratt, and Surratt did provide them with a new foundation, like kind of no questions asked. When they told me that, they were like, you should do that. But I purchased mine like a year ago, and I had just opened it because I thought I was going to go through the foundation faster than I ended up going through it. And so that was why. But I will, when I use this up, I will buy another one, even though I hate the component. Okay. Right off the bat, I'm not keeping this. I didn't really love this. I don't really have nice things to say about it. Like, it's not the worst thing I've ever used, but I don't think there's anything really remarkable about this. I got really confused by this and the whole beautiful skin range from Charlotte Tilbury, which I don't really understand what the beautiful skin stuff is versus the non-beautiful skin stuff. It has, you know, I think it has a decent coverage, but it is really thick, and that's just not really my jam when it comes to concealer. I don't really love things with thickness, but it has some good coverage. It really did some beautiful brightening, but it's not for me. I'm certainly not getting rid of this. This is the Chanel color corrector in the shade Fair, which is green en français. This is the messiest component. It really is. And I've said this in my countdown because I tried this for the first time this year. This is the only thing that makes it Chanel. Everything else about it is super average. The component is average. Everything about it is average. I mean, the product inside is beautiful, but I think there are probably products that don't cost this much that have similarly beautiful and like cosmetically elegant formulas. So yeah, I'm not like committed to this, but I have it, and it's the only green color corrector I have, and I do utilize it sometimes. I really like to pull this out whenever I'm doing like a full glam look. And yeah, I'm gonna keep that. Isn't it so weird? If you were here last year when I did my big makeup collection end of the year declutter, just like how little I have, how much less I have going into this. And honestly, I would have decluttered the Charlotte Tilbury stuff off camera, like the stuff that I didn't like, but I knew I was doing a declutter, so it was like fine for me to just like roll it on into here. I am gonna get rid of the NARS. This is old, and the shade match isn't really good for me, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't, but I really like this formula. I'm not running out to like buy a replacement of it. It has lighter coverage than the Charlotte Tilbury, but that's okay by me. But I really do prefer my concealer to brighten, and it's just not the right shade for that. I've bought concealer with it a little bit, and it is nice for that, but it is just old. It's old. It's something I got in gratis at Sephora, which now in January it will be 2 years since I worked at Sephora, and it wasn't something I got at the end of my time at Sephora. It was something that I certainly got in the middle of my time at Sephora, so I just think it's time for me to part ways with that. The Armani Luminous Silk Concealer is something that I highly intend on keeping on. I've worn this as a foundation. I don't like the foundation, the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I actually think it's bad, and I actually have a review. It's one of my first foundation reviews, like the way I do them now on my channel, but this is really beautiful. It's a really thin formula with a really nice amount of coverage, and the shade I got is nice for brightening, and you can see it's like almost the same color as the Charlotte Tilbury up here, but it has a little less coverage. I don't need a full coverage concealer. Like, that's not like really what I'm about. Like, I've said this before, I just don't have problematic under eyes, which is a blessing, and I am aware. I'm aware that that is not the case for everyone, and some people do really need like high coverage concealer. But I find that high coverage concealers, they always get me into trouble. I just don't like the way my under eyes look with them. This is really beautiful, nice and thin, blends out beautifully, doesn't age my under eyes at all. It just looks really nice. So that's the only concealer. This is the concealer. I mean, this is technically a concealer, but not serving the same purpose as this concealer. And if you watched my Becoming State of Kate, I wore this all over the face and it looked really nice, and I probably will do that again. And I'm curious, now that this is the only one, this is the only one I'm focused on, how fast I'll go through it. And this was gratis from Sephora, but it was one of the last things I got in gratis, so it's not that old. And I think I'm about right here. It's really hard to tell in the component. This is obviously not going anywhere. This is the Chantecaille Perfect Blur Finishing Powder, and this is my open one, and I bought it when it was limited edition in this like flower power packaging, and I bought it back up because I really ended up liking it, and it was limited edition. But now this product is permanently in their range. I have done a lot of damage on this. There's a big dent going in here, and I do expect myself to hit pan any day. But even after I hit pan, I'm still gonna have a long way to go on this, just because how much I use powder and how often I'm doing my makeup. It's just not as much as some people you see on YouTube, because I really do it for filming and going out, and it's like sometimes I do it for fun, just to like, you know, test things out, especially when I'm like testing new products. I will wear a lot of it just to try wearing it. I am gonna let go of my backup, and here's why. I should never have bought the backup to begin with. I shouldn't have let the limited edition get to me, because that was the second time it had come back, and Teresa is Dead had bought a bunch of like the hummingbird. I think it was like in a hummingbird packaging before this, and now it's just in like a regular Chantecaille compact. That's what it comes in. My friend Brittany, also known as Born Blushing on here, has been using one from Sisley that she really likes, and I do think once I finish this one up, I want to try that one, and I don't need to hold on to this. In fact, my friend Tiffany, you know, Tiffany's really getting out of this with a bunch of Luxe products, but they're my best friend, but also they wear makeup every day, and I think giving them these like Luxe things is really going to just enhance their experience every morning. And yeah, I'm going to pass this on to them. And that was something that I thought about long and hard, the passing this on. But I am curious about the Sisley one, because Brittany says it's better, but I don't want to try it until I have finished or gotten close to finishing this one. And then there's certainly no purpose in me holding on to this if I plan on trying another one. And if I hate the Sisley one, I can always just buy a new one. I don't need to hold on to that one. If you watched my Charlotte Tilbury review, this is something that fared very well from me in the Charlotte Tilbury review. This is the airbrush brightening powder, and this looks really beautiful under the eyes. Super blurring, doesn't really dehydrate. It makes your under eyes look really good. You can put as much of it on as you want, and it doesn't really get cakey and built up. And so I just think this is a beautiful powder, so I will be holding on to that for the under eyes. And I also have been using this, although my component, something happened here, and it's now really hard to open, like the chipping of the paint. There's just, her packaging is not it. It just isn't. If you've never had the chance to like touch any of her products, just know that it feels really cheap. And I just want to make that clear. However, I've been using this powder all over my face before I use the Chantecaille Perfect Blur powder, and with their powers combined, it's really, really lovely. And I think I can pan this whenever I'm using it all over my face. I might try a different setting powder whenever I'm done with this, but I really like this, and I'm gonna hold on to it. I am gonna get rid of this. This is a full Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. It's a very lovely powder, and I do think that Laura Mercier makes a really beautiful powder. However, I'm never gonna get to this. I panned one of these all through my no-buy, and it was one that I had half done, and it took me even into this year to actually finish that up, and I think I poured a little bit of the remnants of that one into here. I don't need it, and I think I have moved on to like just using pressed powder. It's a little bit easier for me. I really liked loose setting powder whenever I was baking my under eyes, but I'm no longer 26, so baking my under eyes is like not something I do it sometimes, but I can also do that with a pressed powder. So this is really lovely, and this will be really nice to pass along. to somebody who will get use out of it. However, even though I just said all those things about loose powder, this Pat McGrath one I'm almost done with. I tried to get it all on this one side for you to see. Like, I'm almost done with this, and this is what I reached for to like set my eyeshadow primer, because I'm not really using it all over the face, but occasionally I do. It's a nice powder, but again, I liked it more whenever I was baking my under eye, and it just doesn't really serve a purpose for me much anymore. So I'm gonna hold on to it until it's gone, and then I probably wouldn't buy this again. Not the number one thing I would recommend to you. Let me show you what I'm decluttering from this drawer. This is everything that's getting passed on to friends, and I am throwing away these two because they're just old. And here's what I'm keeping. I like to have 4 foundations at any given time. I'm down to 3. Well, technically I'm down to 3. There's another foundation. It's just like not in this section of my drawer, so I just didn't do it here. But yeah, this is all staying. And now I feel like, even though it wasn't really much that I got rid of, I do feel like this part of my drawer that this all lives in is gonna look a lot nicer, and I'm really excited about the prospect. Oh my goodness. I started recording a lip video without actually hitting the record button. Honestly, let me just get you caught up. Okay, so up here, this is the Charlotte Tilbury Cover Star shade, and like the color, but this formula is trash in my opinion. I don't like it, and I don't recommend it. This is Gucci's A Royal Scandal, which is so beautiful. Component, product, I like them both. This is A Royal Scandal swatched. Next to that, I have the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude in the shade Noah. Here that is there. And as you can see, in the bullet, they kind of look similar, A Royal Scandal and Noah. Kind of. Like, they almost look like they could be the same thing. But they read differently, not only in arm swatches, but on the lips. There's something yellow in here. Something a little bit weird. It's like a really weird nude and unique shade. And the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude packaging is like it's really good. Next up, I swatched MAC's Whirl, which I praised in my videos for the end of the year countdown. That's that right there. So definitely more pink than the browns surrounding it. And on the very bottom here, this is 1990 from Merit, which is one of my faves. And you can see the bullet here is well loved. And it's like, man, I use this lipstick a lot. In fact, many times people would be like, what shade of lipstick are you wearing? And it's almost always 1990 because I just really like the formula. But it's much sheerer than the others. And it's also, you know, there's a little more red in there than you might think. So it's not really super neutral, whereas I would say like, well, are any of these neutral? I'm obviously keeping that. In my video of my end of the year countdown, when I talked about Slip, I said it looks like I've been chewing on it like it's an eraser in elementary school. So I'm just gonna show you. That's the damage that the side of the bullet has done. And I don't even know that it's like super, like, look at it. It's just, I mentioned it in that video, and I'll mention it here again. There's something about the lighter shades that are much softer and kind of push them up against it, but I'm gonna swatch this for you. And I still really like the shade, but it is like really unappealing to look at with the way that it looks in the bullet. But I still like this formula, and I like this shade. And then finally, my last brown lip, which is what I was trying to show off here. This is the Merit Lip Slip in Falcon, which is their lip oil. Yeah, I love a brownie lip, and I'm not afraid to show it. So next up, I want to look at all my reds. I think there's only 2 that I'm going to keep, and one of them really isn't a red. So let's start with this YSL one. This is the shade 01 of their Rouge Pour Couture, and this is in their limited edition packaging. It was from a holiday season, and I received it in gratis at Sephora. And it's a beautiful, vibrant, comfortable formula, and I really like this. However, it's not the red I'm reaching for when I go into my drawer. And it's definitely more, I would definitely say this one has a little more orange in it than it is, you know, more blue red. So you have to like that kind of red. And while I do like that kind of red, and I like orange lipsticks, and we're gonna like obviously talk about orange lipsticks, this is both old, and I kept it for so long, and I like really very rarely ever used it. And it's time for it to get disposed of. Next up, we have the shade Vendetta from Pat McGrath. And this is much more of like a rich red, and it's in a matte formula, so it doesn't have like the beautiful shine that the YSL does. I like this red. However, the only real red that I'm reaching for is this one from Hourglass, and it's their Confessions lipstick, and it is in the shade Red Zero. And it is supposed to be like the most neutral red. So it's kind of like we have an orange leaning red, we have a blue leaning red, and then we also have just like this true red. And this is the red I'm reaching for. And so with that in mind, it is the red that I shall keep. And I will pass on Vendetta to someone who will enjoy it more. This is full-blooded. This really isn't a red. It has some red in it, but it's like its own unique thing, and it's like this dark purple, and I am keeping that because I really like the way it looks on my lips, and I like a vampy lip like that. Let's finish the Pat McGrath lipsticks. This is a Flesh 3, and you can see this does kind of bump up against the bullet, but it's not as bad as, you know, Slip. But this is a really beautiful, like, brown, deep terracotta shade. I'm very into that. I probably should have swatched that with the other browns, but I wear this enough that it's worth keeping. This is from one of the lip kits. It's the Blood 1. Oh, this is also red. See, I didn't even know this was red, and I had it. So I'm gonna just pass that one along. And then we have Omi, which is probably the lipstick I've done the most damage on over the course of my makeup career. But this is like a nice pinky nude. I've moved on to like more brownie nudes, but I still do pull this out from time to time, just for a nice, simple, basic mauve lipstick. And I like the Pat McGrath matte formula. So I'm a little bit stained, so my arm is a little bit pink from the red lipsticks, but it is what it is. Let's talk about orange lipsticks. And I'm gonna keep both of these. So I have the Bobbi Brown Luxe lipstick in the shade Atomic, and it is so gorge. And this keeps its like creamy satin finish, and I love that. And if you've never had the experience of holding one of these, they are called Luxe lip colors, but it feels luxe, and I really love having that. And this is the Givenchy. This is a limited edition shade. They've had it in stock the last couple times I've checked. This is the shade Brick, and they describe it as a brick red, but I think it really is an orange, in my opinion. It's beautiful, it's matte, it's not at all like Atomic Orange, and I wear this one a lot. This is like the most comfortable matte lipstick formula I've ever tried. I like the way it wears on the lips, it's beautiful, and I would absolutely buy another Givenchy lipstick without batting an eyelash. Okay, I think all that I have left are like special lipstick colors, so I'm gonna just pull all of those out. Working our way from the middle. This is the Sinister Satin in Omen from Black Moon Cosmetics. It's a beautiful black, and I would say it's like a really neutral black. It doesn't lean too blue or too purple. It has maybe like if there was an undertone, it would be maybe green would be the undertone of this black, but it does stay pretty neutral and doesn't make your teeth look super yellow, and it's a really beautiful formula. So we can keep that. This is Sugar Pills Gravity, so it's like a sparkly kind of pinky mauve, a little bit darker. And this is kind of my only metallic lip that I have left. And I don't always want a metallic lip, but I really like this formula, and it looks really good on the lips with like, especially with like a dark brown lip liner. It really is something to behold. This is Sugar Pills Dropout, which is like this, I think this is my only liquid lipstick I still have. It's a beautiful dark green with some sparkle in it. You know, sometimes this doesn't go on the lips so beautifully, but it's such a special shade. But like, I would be open to replacing it with a different dark green lipstick, honestly. But, you know, I still have this and it's still working, and I will use it until it dries up. I really like it. This is MAC Lavender Jade, which I think was a limited edition shade, but I never use it. And anytime I do use it, it's only because I'm like recreating a look of someone's or something. And if I'm not gonna use it on my own looks, then there's really no point in me having it. And it is pretty old, so I'm actually just going to back to MAC this one. This was gifted to me by I just said that this was my only liquid lipstick when literally there's another liquid lipstick in frame. That's how little I think about this one. But I recently just saw a picture of me wearing this, and I was like, ah, yeah, that's not going anywhere. It's so beautiful. And I am into more neutral eye looks these days, and I think what was kind of happening with my colorful lipsticks is that I had always been doing such colorful eye looks that I wasn't really getting to these really special shades, and some of them I really like. And this is the shade Unattached from Fenty. They're liquid, and I like this formula. It's really comfortable, but it's not like the longest lasting, but it's a really beautiful coral shade. The only thing I hate about this is that it doesn't fit in my lipstick holder, which is why I think I forget about it. I think I'm gonna keep this. This is the She's Hard to Get So it goes with that pink lip liner I showed you earlier. And there's just, I don't have a pink like this anywhere else in my collection, you know, in my lipstick collection. So I'm going to hold on to it. And I do, if Givenchy is first in matte lipstick formulas, I would say that Patrick Ta's matte formula is second. The component is really kind of chintzy. Like, it looks a little bit rich on camera, but there's no weight to it. This is an experience to hold, and like, this is like fun to look at, but they're not, the quality is not the same packaging wise, but I think they're both beautiful formulas. Next up, I have some lip glosses. These are mostly Pat McGrath. I'm just gonna cut to the chase and just tell you that I'm gonna declutter this. This is, I've had this since 2019, and I really tried hard to pan it this year, but it's just not a lip color that I'm looking for. And I think I really held on to it is because they don't make this shade anymore. And obviously there was a time where I like lived and died for this shade because it's really almost used up. But it's its time, and I know I'm not gonna use it, especially when I have a lot of these colorful lips to play with. I'm not going to use this, and it's time. However, all of these other Pat McGrath, I think there's one that's missing. I always feel like I'm missing a Pat McGrath. It's like it's in a bag somewhere, and I just don't know which bag it's in, because I often will take lip glosses with me whenever I'm going out to events. But I also have Flesh Fantasy. Oh, the shade I just decluttered is Paraphernalia, which has not been on their website in quite some time. Flesh Fantasy, a beautiful nude, no sparkles in this. This is Love Potion, which is like a very bright, nude, milky, sparkly lip. Then I have Fembot, or Future Femme, which is pink with some blue sparkles in it. And I have Peach Perversion, which is peachy with some pink sparkles in it, but I'll be keeping all of these. So the clear gloss I just use sometimes to top things, and I have another clear gloss that I'm currently testing that will probably allow me to get rid of this, but I'll hold on to that until I can introduce the other clear gloss into my collection. This is the Dior Lip Maximizer in the shade 3, which is also a thing called Rosewood. And I really like this, and it's kind of just its time. It's just its time. Like, look how much I've used it. And I would happily buy this again. I just don't like this applicator. It's so small. I have big old chunky lips, and that's just not gonna do for me. But I did use it almost all the way up, and it's also, I think I got it like in one of my first couple years at Sephora, so its time has run. It's run its time, so it's time to just dispose of this. Let me wash off my arm and then reflect a little. Still stained. These are the 4 lip products that I am throwing away because of age. I'm gonna back to MAC this one. And here are the 3 that I am just decluttering and passing on to friends should they want them. Not a huge lip declutter, but I really kind of honed in what I really liked in lips this year. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me for this to be a category where I'm like not as willing to get rid of as much. Here's my little container now. I didn't need one this big. And, you know, there was a time where I thought I wanted this much, but like I really don't. So that's okay. I don't know what to do with that Fenty one, but it's gonna live like that. But that ends the lip portion of the video. You can hear my space heater. It's very cold. So we're gonna start working on cheek stuff, and I'm kind of hoping to make some headway here. I don't know, maybe I am gonna be a little bit ruthless, but I just feel like I have so much cheek product, and I just feel like I'm never gonna touch it. So let's start with like contouring and bronzing items. So here are all of my contouring products, my bronzers and contouring. So we're just gonna do it all as one. This item is fairly new to me. I got it from a friend, and you all had said that be wary, remember to shake it, that this didn't work out for you as well as it has worked out for some other people. So I am weary of it, but I still haven't tried it enough to like really get to know it. So I do want to keep this one. But my experience with it is it makes my skin look really beautiful. I get on with it quite well so far, so I'm looking forward to see hopefully that continue. The Fenty Cream Contour, well, it's a cream bronzer in the shade Amber, but it is a contour shade. My plan is to pan this entirely. I want a new cream contour so bad. Oh my god, dog hair. I want a new cream contour so bad. But like, we are now so close. We are now so close. There it is. It's definitely like more cool tone. It's definitely more of a contour shade. But I am still making good progress on it. I don't hate it. I'm just over it. Those are 2 different feelings. I think this is a really quality product. I really enjoy it. I enjoy having it. It's great. And then next up is the Hollywood Contour Wand from Charlotte Tilbury. Here's what I'm saying about it, is that the product dries up, but only in this format. Only in the contour wand does it get as like dried up, but that's not. If you watch my Charlotte Tilbury, you know that I got on with this pretty well. And while it really isn't true, like a true contour, like look at how different those shades are, I still like using it. So I'm gonna just hold on to that. I am going to depart with all of the Salt New York stuff that was so kindly sent to me by Danny, and I really appreciated having the opportunity to try it, but I'm going to pass those on to a friend. I'm gonna keep them in this compact until that happens, but this will no longer be in my collection. These are my powder contours. This is the one from Kevyn Aucoin, and then these two are from Lunatic Cosmetics Labs. I still like those. I'm still gonna continue using those. Maybe once this one's done, I might consider just buying a regular one of the contour and then maybe passing on these, but we'll see once that happens. But I do dip into this one first before I dip into these two, so it might be a matter of just like paring things down there. But I did used to have the full contour volume 1, and I depotted these two shades because they were the only reasons I really ever went in there. These 4 will be leaving. Oh no, I shouldn't have wiped off all of those things. I'm definitely going to keep Tara from Tom Ford. I really like this. I like that I even have the big one. And if you were here last year, you know that like there was only, like I really worked off some of this embossing. While I'm not using it every time, I am more into like creams at this point when it comes to like bronzer and contouring. But I just like the neutrality of this, and I like the very subtle glow. It is overall a very subtle bronzer even on my skin tone, but I like the neutrality of it where it's like not this and it's not that, but it isn't this either. It's just like something that's sits very, very nice in between. This is the Chanel Healthy Glow Bronzer. This is deep tan, pretty similar to, well, wow, how do I have so many bronzers and none of them are the same? One can never be sure. And I also have the Charlotte Tilbury. That almost looks green. Look at it compared to everything else. It looks almost green. I think, no. I know I want to keep the Chanel because it, for most of the year, this was like what I was reaching into. The thing is, I feel like I have gone into this so hard all year and like nothing's happened. Like it still feels like I have so much product left in here, which is great because it's not a cheap product. You get a whole ounce in here. Here's the thing. I'm gonna keep the Chanel, so I'm gonna keep that. Here's the thing about the Charlotte Tilbury one, is that every time I've worn it, because I was, you know, in hiding, I was trying all these Charlotte Tilbury products, but every time I wore this, even without my audience knowing that I was wearing this, if I was wearing this bronzer, I would get questions about it, which, you know, and I have also it's been confirmed that this looks really good on me. But when I have all of these other, like, bronzers or products, and, like, we'll just remove this one from the equation because it's not the same as these, it's like, I feel like I don't need it. I will continue trying the Milk one in conjunction with this one, and whichever one I end up liking more, I'll keep, and then I'll just declutter the other one. I just feel like, I don't know, I got on with this, and a little more than I was expecting, but it's just not the same bronze. Like, especially in the summertime, the Chanel one is where it's at for me. I don't know, it's such a weird color. Look at how green it looks. It's so green. It's so green compared to these other ones. Do I need the contour? Like, look at how much I've used of the contour wand. I definitely will. I think I can use that up. And I don't think that it will be a challenge to use this up because I feel like I've gone through it so fast and I feel like I haven't even used it that much. And hopefully that will make me feel better about this. But I will keep my promise and come back to these after continuing using both of them. These are the two that are like up for elimination, as it were, to see like which one will stand the test of time and continue on in my collection. So that didn't go as planned. I thought I'd get rid of more. Let's do blushes. Here are all my blushes. Let's start with what I am certainly keeping. Mimi from Westman Atelier really came out of nowhere this year and really was such a delight. And this was like part of my like blush journey this year, trying to find like a cool toned blush. And this isn't cool toned, but I was trying to find like a cool toned gray pink, and it really looked like it was gonna be that on the Westman Atelier website, but in reality it's like just like this beautiful nude blush, and I'm so obsessed with it and I wear it all of the time. And that goes for Pure Weiss Inner Glow, kind of the same deal. Whenever I said that Mimi didn't satisfy what I was looking for, people had suggested to try Inner Glow, and they were right, and it looks really beautiful on the skin, and I love it, and I'm obsessed with it. Even this was like an end of the year purchase. Like, I only bought this a few months ago, and just like look at the usage, look at how it's going. That is proving its worth in wonders. Like, it's just doing its job. It's doing her best. The Bare Minerals Bronzer in Kiss of Copper. You guys know that I love an orange blush, and I just think that the bronzers really get it. The girls who get it, get it. And I don't really like pinks too much, so this feels like the obvious option for me, and so I'm keeping that. There are two things that I know for sure that I'm definitely getting rid of, so let's talk about those. So this has lasted another year in my collection, and I think I used it one time this year, and that's not fair to it. I think that the Fenty cream blushes are really nice. I just don't know that I love all of their shades, but I really liked this one because it had some shimmer in it, unlike the other one I had, which I think was named Daiquiri Dip. These blushes are really nice, but it's just languishing in my collection, and it can be passed along. And it's just, you know, I think the bronzer, as far as orange blush goes, is much more nuanced. There's something there, and this is just like not as nuanced. And I obviously understand they're very different oranges, but I think it's okay to move on. And I think I'm gonna try to pass this one on, but it is a little bit older, so if no one's comfortable taking it, then we will just recycle. Oh my gosh, another obvious keep. Desert Orchid from Pat McGrath. I think that this is just like the best shade that came out in the blush range. I tried 3 of them. I had already decluttered one, and I have another one obviously sitting right there. But this kind of serves the same purpose as like Mimi and Inner Glow, but this is like the really warm version of it. It just does something to the skin. There's like definitely more orange in it than there is in these two, but in the summertime, ooh. And it's so interesting when you have it on the cheek. It's just so special, and I feel the same way about these two. And those are the kind of blushes that I've been really into, like not so much a bold cheek, but more like a nuanced cheek that looks really gorgeous and isn't really super hard to wear. So we're gonna keep that one. And as far as unique shades go, I am gonna keep Wasp from Ritual de Fille. This is one of the Nectar Pigment Balms, and I actually am not obsessed with this formula, but I do love that I just have a yellow blush, and I love to pull it out every now and then. Does it get the most play in my collection? No, but I also think anyone I would pass it on to, it would kind of get the same level of play. And it's my only, I had all of the Nectar Pigment Balms, and this is the one I remained on. So I just think this color is the most unique out of all of the Nectar Pigment Balms, and when you look at my collection, it's certainly the most unique. Another one that's certainly not going anywhere, this is Condensate from Phytosurgeons. This is new to me. It's one of the toasted blushes, and it's this cool toned mauve, and it's kind of, you know, exactly what I was looking for. It's just like it's like the deep version of these two. It has a little more to it, and I was worried that it was gonna look more pink on the skin, but I've worn it on my cheeks before and it looked absolutely divine, and I really liked the way it looked, so I'm obviously keeping that. And there's no doubt about it, I'm also keeping Smolder, which was my first Phytosurgeon Skin Spark. Ugh, I love this shade so much. It's just a beautiful terracotta. It is more orange, but you can see here, I have 2 modes. It's this or orange. It's this or orange. And I think just knowing that I'm staying in my lane is okay. Smolder gets the most play, obviously, in the summertime, but excellent formula. I mean, Phytosurgeons really outdid themselves with that cream blush formula. It's so good. I am gonna depart with the Tower 28 Beach Please in Power Hour, and I just don't pull this out too much. It's not my favorite formula, but it is a really beautiful shade. It's like definitely more terracotta than the other ones, but I fear it more than I use it, and like when that happens, we're in some troublesome territory. But you can see where I was going with it, right? Like it is really beautiful, and I do think it gives a really beautiful sunburned look on the skin when you blend it out, because it obviously doesn't have to stay that intense. But also, I think if you have like a medium skin tone, you might even like it more than me if you really like a warm toned blush. But I just don't pull this out enough to warrant keeping it in my collection. I'm definitely gonna get rid of this. This is the Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand in medium, and it really was pretty as a blush. And it was like kind of the same as Kiss of Copper, and I would rather use Kiss of Copper, even though I probably in theory like a liquid highlighter or liquid blush more than I would like a powder blush. But it's really pretty, and I think someone else will get a lot of use out of it. I think you can tell the color range that I'm like the least sure about keeping. I am gonna pull out Condensate again, and kind of just match it up to this Kat Von D shade I have, because I'm just wondering how similar they are. This is the shade Rosebud, and they kind of look similar. You know what? I'm keeping Rosebud, but I'm going to depart with this Jouer blush duo. The Jouer blush duo, they really have a beautiful formula going here, and I really think these are really nice, but they're just so pink and not as nuanced as either one of these two. And when I'm going to reach for a cool tone, it's probably going to be something more in the range of that. So I'm going to pass on the Jouer. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. At Night, I'm going to hold on to. This is from Hourglass. These don't swatch particularly well. These are one of those ones where it's like you have to get it on the cheek to really notice it. But it's this like beautiful brick red, but it's like not going to be fully pigmented because of the way that they formulate these. But I just think this is such a special shade even within the Hourglass range, and I don't have like a red blush, and sometimes I do want that. It typically happens more in the summertime, but I do use this more than I think I will. I'm also going to say goodbye to this. This is the Natasha Denona Bloom palette, and I've kind of said on my channel before that I really don't love a face palette. Even though this is like a blush highlighter palette, it doesn't get as much play as I would want to. In fact, I don't really think I touched it at all this year unless I was talking about it specifically. It's one of those things I think in theory I love a lot more than in practice, and my friend has been eyeing up this particular blush from me, and she's kind of been waiting for me to get rid of it. And if you can see, like, it's falling more in line with what's happening with the Jouer blushes, and it's beautiful, and I really enjoyed having this, and it for a long time was a precious little item to me. But I am ready to depart with it, and I'm ready for at least part of this to get used up, because I know my friend, once she gets this, is going to pan that. Like, it's going to be her, not her goal, but it's going to be something that she does. We kind of have some different things happening here. This is the Euphoric Fusion shade from Hourglass. And it's super shiny, and it's really subtle. That's pretty. I'm gonna keep that. I do use it. I utilize it quite a bit, but it was one of those things where, like, do I need it? And now that I've swatched it, I'm like, yeah, that's really pretty, and I will use that. So here we are. Look. These are two really, really bright blushes, and they're both super beautiful. This is Electric Bloom from Pat McGrath. Ugh, that's disgusting. It's so disgusting. Look at that. That's beautiful. And then we have Pop It from Westman Atelier. I'm gonna definitely keep Electric Bloom. That really aligns with me, even in its brightness. I don't use it all the time, but I do use it more than a lot of the stuff that I'm decluttering this year, so I think she continues to hold her own space. Here's the thing about Pop It, is that every time I wear it, you all tell me how good I look in it, but something about it doesn't ring true to me. And whenever let me pull out Mimi. I bet I've used Mimi more. I mean, it's kind of negligible. I was like, but you can kind of tell that Mimi is further down in it, and I've had Mimi for less time. I've had Pop It for much longer. I'm gonna put this in the maybes. I'm gonna think about it. Before we move on, here are the blushes I'm decluttering. I'm decluttering 5, and 2 of them are palettes, which is good. That feels nice to me, and I think that other people will love these more than I have been or could. All right, let's reset. Okay, I think I'm actually going to declutter this. This is the Rosebud blush. When I was just cleaning off my arm, it just, condensate really sung to me a lot more than this one did. So I'm also gonna get rid of that. Euphoric Fusion is really pretty, so I'm still thinking about it. I'm gonna put that in the maybes as well. Let's look at shiny things, shall we? Let's look at some highlighters. There's really no good place to put that. Here are all of my highlighters. I don't even think last year that if I did this, that they would all fit in the range. I guess I can zoom out just a skosh. There we go. So now, but now everything's not centered. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's just talk about things I know I'm not going to declutter. Obviously, the Fenty Diamond Balm and How Many Carats. Like, this is something that I love, something that I use all the time, something that I use on my eyes. I think about it all the time. It's very much in my mind palace. It gets a lot of use. It gets a lot of play. And I appreciate her for her service, so she's going to stay. The other thing that's definitely staying is the Milk Highlight in Lit. I guess I could swatch these on my arm for you. There's the Fenty. It's mostly just like a wet looking thing, but man, these Milk highlighters were so good. I'm so mad that they discontinued these because I think this range was like really lovely, and they had a bunch of they were beautiful. I don't know what they were thinking, but that's not something I take into consideration on my channel because I am still a makeup consumer as well as someone who is doing reviews, and it's not, for me, it's not all about you being able to buy them. It's about me also loving my collection. Something that also kind of goes without saying, it's the first highlighter I've ever hit pan on, and this is the Ritual Defy Alchemist, which is supposed to be a highlight topper, and I love it. I mean, obviously I hit pan on it. Another thing that's shocking, I know that I don't love face palettes, however, if you can see, maybe you can see, this highlighter has like, you can see the pan on the side, you can see quite a bit of it, and I dip between these two all the time. It is so lovely. And I'm kind of mad at Tarte for not making this anymore, although I don't know if these highlights are available as singles. I still have this, and I'm working my way through it, and I'm having a good time. But these are the two that I use the most. Once I use up these two, the palette will be gone. And they look really chalky when I swatch them with my fingers. But whenever I use a brush, especially on skin that's a little bit wet from setting spray, oh man, shut up. Like, you can definitely go like alien slut, as Teresa's dad would say, with those, but you could also really just very lightly dust them on and they look really beautiful and elegant. And I love that for this palette. It's like, I kind of know what I want to get rid of. Like, I kind of know that I want to get rid of. Okay, so time for me to say goodbye to Trophy Wife. I didn't really use this at all this year. It's beautiful. It really is. And I could use it on my eyes, but I'm just not going to. I have other gold eyeshadows I'm going to reach for before I would reach for Trophy Wife. But it is really beautiful, but it's just not practical for me and my skin tone. But I loved having it. I loved having the option. But I think it's time to let go of the delusion and pass it on to someone who's going to wear it all the time. I'm fairly certain my friend Kirsten will scream and then slap me for giving that to her. So I'm gonna let her have that. Okay, I'm gonna keep this one. I know that a lot of people didn't get on with this. This is the Champagne Gold highlight, and this was from a couple Christmases ago from Pat McGrath. And people said it really didn't work out for them, but it's just a very subtle highlight. Like, that's it built up, but on a brush, it really isn't that deep, and I can get away with wearing it. It depends on like what brush density, but a lot of people felt like they couldn't get anything out of this, and I use it a lot, but I also really love it. I couldn't, even if I were to stop using this and like retire it from my collection, I wouldn't give this to anyone else. I'm so sorry, but this is what I always wanted Pat McGrath to be. This is what I think of when I think of Pat McGrath when it comes to packaging. Like, this is so excessive and unnecessary, and I kind of love that about it. I think it's time for me to let this go. This is from the original Pat McGrath Skin Fetish release. I bought it. They sell these still, but they're now in like the permanent packaging, which is like white. And you can see when I turn this down, I've gotten some good use out of it. But in lieu of getting rid of this, I'm actually gonna keep Spotlight because I think they serve the same purpose and kind of have a similar glow. And I know that I have shit talked this Spotlight product for a while, but it does look really nice on the skin. I don't think it's like what everyone else makes it out to be, but I have it, and like, you know, there is a little bit of magic to it, and I think it's pretty enough to keep. And I really love this, and I did use it a lot, the Pat McGrath. I did, and I really made an effort to try to use it up for a while. Like, blend it out. It's just kind of just shiny, right? And that's what both of them do. So that's why I'm gonna keep the Spotlight one. I can't believe. Can you believe? I can't believe. I'm gonna recycle this because this must be like 5 or 6 years old. The highlight, they still smell good, and they still perform well, but it's just kind of hit its time. And something tells me that if I'm running through the contour like I am, that I think it's gonna be two things. I think I'm gonna use this a lot more than I think I'm gonna use it. I think it's just gonna be a product that I can easily use up too. I'm gonna swatch Nectar. The only thing about Nectar, this is from West Atelier, one of their lit up highlight sticks, is that it's much more of a gloss and kind of like nothing going on it. There's like a little bit of a peach tint to it. And I mean, I really like it. It's one of those ones that it's like when I say like I'm doing a no makeup day, I really like this. And also, I don't plan on doing this a lot, but I mean, I really like this and I am keeping it because it adds value to my collection. But there's another highlight that I'm currently testing that I'm not talking about that I think is really similar to this, but I think this is better. So I want to hold on to that and, you know, be able to show you for comparison's sake. I do think we are going to say goodbye to, oh, this is Sting. This is from the same Skin Fetish collection this was from, but this has like this gorgeous pink sheen. And it's so subtle. It's not like what's going to happen whenever we swatch all these Ritual Defee ones, that I just like to throw it on sometimes. And, you know, I'm not always into the pink, but since I've moved this into my highlight drawer, because for some reason for a very long time this was in my single shadow drawer and I was just like never using it because kind of out of sight, out of mind. But I have been using it a lot more. Every time I use it, I really enjoy it. I definitely am going to get rid of this. This is the Dream, and it's really, really pretty. And it has like this, it's just not really meant for my skin tone. It's a little just too deep for me. I know it's not really showing up in this lighting. It's so pretty. I use this one the least, and I think someone else will get a kick out of having that, and it doesn't need to be me. And it's, you know, when I think of my Ritual Defee highlighters, there's definitely like a hierarchy of what I'm reaching for. This is Solaris. I assume it's Solaris. It is Solaris. And I pull this out all the time. I don't know if you can see, there's like a pretty big divot in here. I'm fairly certain I will be hitting pan on this sometime shortly, but I use this one all the time. I'm like so running out of space. Maybe I'll just do it in here. It has a flip from like orange to pink. It's really hard to catch the shifts in here. This is one of their rare light luminizers, so these aren't as sparkly as the metamorphic highlighters. The Dream is a metamorphic highlighter, which is why it had so much sparkle in it. Oh God, it's so pretty. No take backs, Tom. I mean, I guess I could if I wanted to. I feel some kind of way about it. Like I really do, because I really, really love this formula. But if it's not getting its flowers in my collection, then I shouldn't be holding on to it, because there is someone out there. There's someone out there who will give it its flowers. The second thing I really kind of want to look at is these two. So this is the High Priestess, and this is the shade The Fawn. Now this used to be limited edition, but I do think it's in their permanent collection now. There's some kind of blush or something sitting on top of this. That's the Fawn. Fawn is so much sparklier. Ooh. Okay. I've never swatched these two next to each other because I always felt like they were so similar. But they really aren't. I don't know. It's weird because like this one, this is the Fawn, it has so much more like glitter particles to it, and the High Priestess almost looks like the rare light luminizers in this setup. I think I definitely want to keep the Fawn because it's feeling special. I don't know that the High Priestess is feeling as special to me. I'm thinking about the High Priestess. I'm gonna keep it on camera, but over here. Phosphine is so pretty. It's one of the rare light luminizers, and it's just like so good. And Moon Pillar, they both look really interesting, but like on the cheek, they read much more subtle. Ugh, can you even see them? They're down here. They're down here. Whenever you, there we go. There's the High Priestess. And then there are the other two, but I'm keeping both of them. The rare light luminizers are really, really beautiful. They really are, especially if you don't like glitter in your highlighter. That's kind of the way to go when it comes to Ritual Defee. I'm keeping the Chimera, nice and green. Come on. Yeah, I use that a lot. In fact, it's probably close to pan too. It has a pretty nice divot going in here. So that one's special enough to keep. This is Lunaris. This is like the sister to Solaris. This was my first Ritual Defee highlighter. Still smells good. Oh, wait, does it still smell good? That doesn't smell good. Okay, we're gonna throw that one away. It smells a little bit like crayon. Still performs well though. Although that really is a really good deciding factor. So we will get rid of Lunaris. Okay, let me smell, hold on. Let me smell some of these other ones because I've had some of these in my collection for a while. The Fawn is new. The Chimera is older. Chimera still smells good. Solaris is older. It still smells good. Moon Pillar is newer. Phosphine's newer. Where's the Alchemist? No, that one still smells good. Okay, cool. So unfortunately, Lunaris just has to be, oh, that breaks my little heart. I really like this highlighter, but it's definitely like of an era of time gone by. There's something about blue highlighters specifically, like something about the purple of Moon Pillar and like the orange of Phosphine. They're not as intense. And like when I use the Chimera, it's like obviously for a very specific reason, but something like this feels more special, and this feels a little bit dated just in the makeup industry. So I think it was time for it. It was time for its departure. High Priestess. It is so pretty. And it's not that old. I'm fairly certain I bought it this year, or did I buy it this year? I feel like I randomly threw it into an order at some point, and that's why I have it. You know what? Kind of like Lunaris. I don't know. I don't think I'll miss it. I'm gonna pass it on. I'm gonna pass it on while it still has life in it left. That was upsetting. I'm upset. Is everyone okay? I'm checking in on you for you. Not for me. It's such a funny joke for me to try to like wipe off highlighter because I'm just now covered in sparkle. Let's revisit Pop It and Euphoric Fusion. I'm gonna keep Pop It. It's unique, it's special. I like getting the compliments when I wear it. I do think that I have some plans to make sure that I am cycling through more looks this year, and I think this will get more play in that scenario. But I do think I'm gonna say goodbye to this, and here's why. This reminds me of a shade that I, in theory, would want to wear all of the time, but in reality, the ones that I definitely really want to wear all the time, like the ones I can throw on no matter what the look is, it's gonna be Mimi, it's gonna be Inner Glow, it's gonna be Desert Orchid, and therefore someone else can use this as their everyday blush. It doesn't have to be me. Here are the highlighters I'm getting rid of. These two are getting, unfortunately, recycled, getting end of life, and then I will be passing on these three: the Dream, the High Priestess, and Trophy Wife. Let me wipe this down, and then we'll put everything back. I love the big compacts. I love the big juiciness of the compacts. However, I also hate the big juiciness of the compacts because it makes them very difficult to store. That's cheeks. I feel really good because I feel like I got rid of a lot, but here's the thing. This was getting really just like there was a lot going on. I try to keep all the blushes and the highlights in like the same container, like the same plastic component, but oh my god, this is almost an hour long just for the blushes, and it was like wasn't doing so hot. I really only have one highlighter spilling over into the other one, and then the back part is gonna be my like bronzer contour situation, and I might move my face powders up into this so that like it's all kind of my face stuff. That's what I think I'm gonna do. Okay, I think eyeshadow is all I have left. Ooh. Right. It's time for the part that I'm never excited to do. We're gonna talk about eyeshadow palettes. Let's get into it. So first up is the Viseart Grand Pro. I really utilize these as single eyeshadows, and you can see I've kind of like gotten my brush into many of these, if not all of these, but I like to use this, and I'm gonna hold on to this because whenever I build my own palette, I find this to be very useful for that, and I do like having all of the Viseart ones in here so I can differentiate them from other shadows that I might have. So this is absolutely staying in my collection. It's kind of a staple at this point. You might not even remember me having this, but this is the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad in Interstellar Icon. This is a really beautiful eyeshadow palette, and here's what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna swatch it because you may not know this, but I did start recording videos for Messmas, like what I did last year in July. And I used this palette in that video. And whenever I used it, I was like, wow, this palette is so pretty. I really like this palette. But I haven't reached for it since then. And before that, I didn't reach for it since my project last year. So I think the reality of the situation is that this is a palette that I'm not going to get a lot of use out of, and I didn't get a lot of use out of, and it's going to be better in the hands of someone else and not me. So unfortunately, we are parting ways. Here's the Natasha Denona Mini Zendo. This isn't going anywhere. I really love this color story, and I love it in conjunction with the Mini Retro. I just think this is so pretty, and I think this version of Zendo is ideal for me. It's just all of the hits and all of the things that I could want out of the regular size Zendo palette. And I know this came out first, and I was really interested in what they would do with a full-size Zendo, but the Mini Zendo is really what's for me. We've talked about this a lot recently, but this is the Mini Retro from Natasha Denona, and I love this, and I get a lot of use out of it, especially the shade Galaxia over here is really, really beautiful, and I love having it in my collection. And you've seen this on my eyes enough times. I'm not going to swatch anything unless I feel like something really needs to be discussed in the eyeshadow palettes, only because I don't want to swatch every single one of my eyeshadows. This one's staying specifically because of Galaxia. I mean, it's an ideal shade for me. Here's another palette that's not going anywhere. This is the Izumaya Industrial Colors. This is a banger of a eyeshadow palette for me. It has all of the greens, it has the rest. I didn't realize that industrial as a color palette would be something that I would be very interested in, but I am, and I love this, and I can't stop reaching into it. You can see that I have like done some damage on some of the shades in here because I use this all the stinking time. I think another very obvious keep for me is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes. I have sung this praise quite a bit. I still stand by that. I don't think this is a palette that everyone needs, but it's added a lot of value to my collection, and I would like to allow it to continue adding value to my makeup collection. Here is the Midnight Sun Mothership from Pat McGrath. Now, I haven't really been able to comment on this because I'm not doing critical sauces right now, but I think it's really bizarre that Pat McGrath has decided to repackage this and sell it again, because I don't know that it's her best selling, because it was always marked down before. This is actually one of my favorite Pat McGrath palettes, and it's not maybe one that I use the most, but it is always the one that inspires me the most. Specifically, these two shades I get a lot of value on. The blue is really pretty, and I really like this green. So there's a lot in here that I really like to play around with. I like that mustard too. So this isn't going anywhere, and here's a little something for you. I think I've had this for like since it came out, and I didn't even realize that I still had that on there. I don't know what happened to this poor thing. This is the Krylon. These are like water activated paints. This is the 18 colors basic. This might surprise you, but I'm gonna keep this. So every now and then I like get inspired enough to do some like really like drag inspired makeup, and this is more useful in that situation. I didn't say mine was pretty, and I didn't say that I took good care of it, which I absolutely don't, but I do like having this around just in case inspiration strikes and I need to go heavy with color. And this also, I also like to use these sometimes as like eyeshadow bases, anything that I really want everything to like last throughout the night. But this is mostly for like, I would say special effects makeup because I don't do that, but really dramatic makeup looks, this really comes in handy. And it's not like I have too much of that where it's just like I use it specifically for that. And also mine's such a mess, it's either I would have to throw it out or keep it because I don't think anyone would want to take that off my hands. But I've really gone through and I did bust that thing up. This is Mothership 3. This is, I don't know what this one's called, but it's Mothership 3. And here's the deal. I really didn't use my Pat McGrath palettes this year. This one included, but this was also one that I didn't know as well as the other ones because this was one of my newer ones, or it may be my newest one that I purchased. To me, it's obviously not the newest one in the collection. I have recently been using my Pat McGrath palettes again, and I am now remembering why I love them so much. I will say Pat McGrath mattes are not my favorite. I don't really love them. However, I do love her shimmers, and even like removed from this, I like these two shimmers are really, really beautiful and pretty standalone. I would say if I were to declutter any of my Pat McGrath palettes, which I'm not sure that I am, but I'm gonna open them all on camera with you just in case something speaks to me. I feel like this would be the one that is most likely to get decluttered. And I don't know why I feel that way, because it does have a lot going on. And like, this isn't really a solid pink. That's not really like a solid pink. It looks more purple in person. It's reading more, but it's just, it is really beautiful. And you know, you have some like nice duochrome stuff happening in here, which is always a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'm gonna hold on to this. I don't want to talk about my plans for next year because I'm gonna do that as my first video, but I have intentions of making sure I touch my eyeshadow palettes a little bit better. Not so much the rest of my collection, but specifically my eyeshadow palettes, which I think I have a difficult time getting my hands on all of them throughout the year. So it's very possible that throughout the year, some Pat McGrath palettes will be removed from my collection, but as of right now, I'm fairly certain they're all gonna stay. And since I say that, we might as well continue on the trajectory. This is Divine Rose 1, and I don't know if you were here last year, but you can tell that I got into this a little bit, especially the shade up here. This is something that I used the Mayron mixing medium with, and then dog hair got in it. I really like this palette. It's interesting because I think I always think of it as this utterly unbelievably pink palette, when in reality it's more desaturated than that. There like are some pinks in here, but like, I don't know, does that really scream rose to you? In the grand scheme, like, of course there's like pink tones in here, but like overall it doesn't really actually scream rose to me. And I do enjoy all the looks that I have with it. Oh my god, I haven't taken this one off either. There you go. There's some more for you. All that is doing is just allowing the mirror to get dirty. I've never used this component like for its mirror. I mean, I'm happy that it's in there. It looks really nice, but yeah, I'm holding on to this one. As of right now, this is like maybe my most used Pat McGrath palette, especially this year, because I've really gotten to know her a little bit better. Here's Mothership 1. This is honestly my favorite cool tone palette. This is the one, whenever I think of Pat McGrath Motherships, this is the first one my mind comes to. Specifically for this shade right here, this like silver gray lilac is really what makeup is about for me. Like, I really like that. And the gold in here is like not as offensive as some of the other golds. It's a nice cool tone gold. I really like that. I mean, I love this shade. You can see how much I've gotten into it. The astral shades are always really fun for me, and this blue is just divine. So it does a lot for me as far as Pat McGrath palettes go. Again, I do need to be better about just using my Pat McGrath palettes in general. I'm excited to have this one in particular. Kind of like the last one, like those two are ones that excite me from the brand and have always excited me from the brand. This is another one where I think throughout the year it could be one of the ones that gets decluttered. And I think that this would be more retired than decluttered because I have the limited edition packaging, which is kind of rude. I do believe that makeup should be used. However, this packaging, like, I have no problem getting rid of the black ones. And I've already gotten rid of like a limited edition packaging from Pat McGrath before, but this one's a little different. It reminds me of a pink Power Ranger that I had when I was little. It had this like metallic to it. Anyway, however, every time I wear this palette, which is like much more warm and much less decent, it's like much more saturated than Divine Rose 1 when you see them together. I know they're kind of like billed as partner palettes, but like they're very different because the Mothership 2 is so warm, and this is almost like cool toned in comparison. And like this is much more my speed when I think we're going this route. However, whenever I wear this eyeshadow palette, I think I get more compliments on my eyeshadow than I ever do. Like, that's when I get the most you guys really like, people really like this kind of color story on me. But the thing is, there's two golds in here, and I don't really care for gold eyeshadow. I think this is a lackluster multichrome, but I like actually this is one of the few Mothership palettes where like this side is much more appealing to me than this side. Now, of course I use this shade almost every time I use this palette, and of course I like this as like a topper shade. Normally I want all four of these to sing to me in some manner, but I normally lose out on at least one because normally there's a gold over here and that's just not really my jam. But yeah, whenever I did the Becoming State of Kate video, this was the palette I used, and I even used this as a blush too. It actually was a look that I had come up again. I like filmed the Kate video and then I pre-filmed another video after that, and that video came out not that long ago, and everyone was like, your makeup looks so great. Also, here you go. I'm gonna hold on to this. I wanna obviously use it more. It's just kind of the MO for this. I have one more. This is the Mothership 5. So I recently used this and I really got on with it. However, this is the one I've had the longest in my collection. And I do feel as though the mattes are not performing as well. I have no issues with these, but I think that whatever the formula has going on in here isn't going to be really as affected by time. But the mattes were really hard to blend whenever I was using it. And I don't recall, like, I don't like Pat McGrath mattes that much. I've decided, even on my like newer Pat McGrath, something felt like very tough to blend with these. But this is one very specific situation where all four of these really sing to me. I really like this shade, and I do like the colors of these mattes, so that really works out in my favor. But I don't know, any other Pat McGrath havers, the side with the special shades always gets like foggy. I don't really know what that's about, but it happens on all of them to me. So please let me know if that's normal. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that only happens to me. I could see a world in which I give this some love this year and then maybe we part ways at the end of the year. Unsure, but I really liked my look the last time. What look was it? It was in one of my ranking all of my makeup from this year. What's really funny is, like, I did that makeup look and it thought it looked really good. And I think I put it on with my patrons. Like, that was what I was doing. Then I do those videos and I'm so far away from the camera, you can't really tell what my makeup looks like. This is the Tom Ford Quad in African Violet. I like this color story. I really do, but I never use this. I just never do. But I really like that this is a really sheer kind of wet looking topper, but you have to really like love the whole thing and want to wear this all the time. And I just don't. And when I think of my other smaller palettes, when I think of the Charlotte Tilbury quads, I'm like, feel like I'd be much more inclined to use those over this. My Rowan quads, I feel like I would use over this, and I do use over this. And so I just think that as of right now, I'm not really interested in the Tom Ford quads kind of moving forward, and it would have to be a pretty big deal. Like, I am thinking about that purple one. I think about it a lot, and I'm interested to see if I might like the cream formula a little bit better. I think it's time for me to part ways with this one. Here is the Viseart Dark Edits palette. This is a beautiful palette. Oh no. Okay. So I must be, what's great about these is you can pop them out and use them as singles. So I don't know where all of those are at this time. I'm fairly certain they're all in one palette. I think what's gonna happen is I'm going to put those back in here and pass this on to someone, only because I do kind of almost exclusively use these as singles, but the shimmers are not really like what I'm about when it comes to Viseart shadows. Like, they are very beautiful, but they don't really punch up anything. They're not like incredible shimmers, and I just think I know at this point, whenever I am reaching for shimmers, I need them to be incredible. Not that I don't dislike a satin, and I think there's a time and a place in a satin, but I have satins in my full eyeshadow palettes, and if I'm mostly using these as singles, I'm never going to really pull these out as singles, and so I think this makes more sense for me to pass on. But I love Viseart's formula. It's one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. Even their shimmers perform really well. They're just like not my favorite kind of shimmer. And I think another really good point to make is that I have this. I can find kind of equivalents, like that might be that shade. That looks really close to that shade. Like, you know, I can make this work more so than like needing to have this as its own separate entity. This is the Soleil Petite 5 from Viseart, and I do use this one as its own palette. I don't reach for it a ton, and I also like to be able to use this for singles, but here's what's different. This is small, and in my eyeshadow drawer, with all of these big eyeshadow palettes just kind of surrounding it, I just can't see it sometimes in my drawer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my drawer with my single shadows and my Rowan quads. So like that format you saw on the top shelf for a little bit a while ago in my video. And I think it's going to be better served up there, and I will remember it. And again, we will see. I do have like a method to get to touch all of my eyeshadows next year, which I am really curious to see if it'll pan out, and it's possible that it might not survive that, and that's okay, but for now this still sings to my heart a lot. This is the Gucci palette Beauté de You, and I really like this eyeshadow palette. I am getting rid of some eyeshadow palettes. I just haven't brought them all on. I know I've gotten rid of a few so far, but I think more are going than you anticipate, and then maybe even I anticipate. I really like this formula, and I really enjoy this. I really enjoy just like having this as a piece, even kind of more so than the Pat McGrath ones, but I think because I have so many of the Pat McGrath ones, those feel a little less special because I'm like so familiar with it. But this still really does something for me whenever I pull it out. I just see it. I feel so excited to use it. And kind of like, I don't know if you watch Hannah Lee's posted, and she talked about how she uses these bottom 3 shades the most, and that is also kind of how I use the palette the most. But I have been thinking a lot about this particular blue and how I want to do a look with it, so that was something I will have to do early next year. I also have been keeping this in a different drawer than the rest of my eyeshadows, so I do think I will use it more. I'm gonna put it in that drawer. I am gonna keep the gross dust cover on it so that the packaging doesn't get damaged rolling around in that drawer, which is okay by me, because if this gets dirty, that's great, but I would like to protect the packaging as much as I can. So keeping that and hoping to get more use out of it next year. Let's talk about it. This is the Natasha Denona Retro Glam, which is the newest palette from Natasha Denona. I actually have kind of big plans for my Natasha Denona eyeshadows. Those plans don't include this palette. I think that I can give this to someone mostly intact, and having touched it and like gotten up my fingers in there, gotten a lot of it on my eyes, it just doesn't sing to me in the way that it needs to sing to me to stay in my makeup collection. And this is a new release. I can easily pass this on to somebody who is going to love it so much more than me, and I'd rather do that before any of these shades go missing like some of my other palettes do, and before I grow kind of like an attachment to it. It's such a pretty palette, pretty color story. Texture's not there for me, and that might not be a problem to somebody else. So yeah, I am sad to see this go, and I'm sad to feel the way I do about this, but it will just languish in my collection, and I know that. This is the Noctex Antiquities palette, or Antiquity palette. Here's what I'm gonna do. As you can see, I have 2 of the shades pulled out. I'm going to take the mattes out, and I'm gonna save them as singles. And I'm gonna actually pass on the shimmers to anyone who might want the shimmers. The shimmers are not really anything to write home about. Like, they're fine. Like, they're fine. I just have so many better shimmers, but I really think this matte formula is divine, and it's those kind of shades that I'm really interested in. Those like grungy, beautiful shades. You know, I was holding on to it as a palette, but I never use it as a palette, but I always pull these singles out and throw them in other palettes all the time when I'm doing my BYO palette. I think it's just gonna serve me better in that format than it is as this, and I just think getting rid of the outside packaging and holding on to the mattes as singles is how it's going to be loved the most in my collection. So what's gonna be nice is that this packaging is no longer going to be in my eyeshadow drawer like that and taking up space, which is fine by me, and I think it's going to be better for all of us going into the future. This is the Club Nebula palette, which was a Kaleidos palette in collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist, and here it is. And this was kind enough to be gifted to me by my friend, the Beauty Beatdown, also known as Kristen. I'm having trouble with this one because I think it's so objectively beautiful when I open it up, but this color story really doesn't sing to me. And I know that I have friends who would probably really love to have this, and I've used it a couple of times, and I really enjoyed the quality of the shadows and enjoyed playing with it. But I think the fact of the matter is that if I really miss this color story, I could make this color story with my singles or make an interpretation of it that would better suit me, but it would still be in the spirit of it. And while I'm so grateful that this was gifted to me by Kristen, and I really, really appreciate it, I think I need to let go of it before it gets even older and unusable, and I'm keeping it out of just like being gifted its sake. I really enjoyed the couple looks that I was able to do with this, but whenever I can say that I only did a couple looks with this, and I received this after it, and I've done so many looks with this, like an uncountable amount of looks with this, it just doesn't make sense for this to stick around. Here's another Angelica palette. This is the Hella palette, which was Angelica and Odin's Eye. In theory, this is a really great palette for me, but in reality, the shades that I use the most is like this whole row, because there's just something to it. Like, that, to me, that's like the most, it's like, that's it. That's the palette. I have like greens like that. And like the shimmers are gorgeous. And I really loved playing with this formula. Oh, man, these are so pretty. And if these were removable pans, I could see a world in which I would depot them and just keep them. And I know that I could depot them. I could really go through the rigmarole of trying to like depot these bottom 4 shades, but I think it makes more sense for me to just pass this palette on to someone else. There is something to these yellows and they're really beautiful and very fun to play with. However, I like my greens to be even like murkier than this. And like they are kind of murky, but they aren't 100% murky. And you know what? This palette even got me to use pinks. I think I used the pinks like almost in every look that I was doing with the Hella palette. Those worked their way in. However, I don't think I've done a look with this since like June, and it's still a palette that was released this year. And it's a really cool color story. And like, I just think that this is going to be better in the hands of someone else rather than in my hands. So I'm going to pass the Hella palette along to someone who's gonna love it like I did whenever I first got it. I don't know what to do. Okay, let's talk it through. This is the Hindash Beautopsy palette. So it's the OG, the original. I think this is one of the best palettes I've ever tried. I really do. I think it's so good. I think it's so stinking good. I really like it. The problem becomes this, is that I very rarely use it because I do always want to use shimmers. And yes, I use this as a companion with shimmers sometimes. However, when I'm doing my single spotlights, I almost always reach for this Viseart palette because the colors are already made for me, and like any kind of like warmth or depth I could need is gonna come from here. However, if I wanted to like make this orange, it would be like I would have to do a lot of work in this palette to get there. So this is much easier, obviously. I do think the formula in this palette, I like the mattes better than Viseart mattes. So it has that going for it. And every time I use it, I'm just reminded of the beauty and the ease of using this and just like what you can do with it and the opportunities available to you when you're using the Hindash palette. I'm trying to think of a reasonable way to keep this in my collection. I really am, because I get along with it really well. And I really almost like it more as a face palette than as an eyeshadow palette. And I just see a world in which like, if I was going on vacation, I would take this and this. And so this would be my face palette, and then this would be my eyeshadows. And then if I wanted to add color with the shimmers, I could do that a little bit with the Hindash palette. I just don't know how realistic that is. And so that's tough for me. I do also have the thought, maybe I move this into my face palette, like maybe use it as a face palette, move it into my face drawer, and perhaps it gets more play that way. That seems like what my heart is telling me to do. But as previously stated in this very video, face palettes are not my jam. Those aren't for me. Like, I don't love them. So it gets to be a bit of a bummer. Like, and it's not like I didn't use this at all this year. It's not like the Hella palette where I just stopped using it after a certain point. It's not like the Retro Glam where I used it a couple of times. Like, this got used many times this year. But just like the practicality of it when I have the Viseart just doesn't make sense. I am having issues with this, and I don't think I can make the call. So I am gonna keep this. I'm gonna put it in my blush drawer for a little while, see what happens. I'm gonna see if something sparks me to want to pull this out more. It's also kind of slim and doesn't take up the most space. It like both feels good and wrong to keep it, but it also feels both good and wrong to get rid of it. I think the smarter thing would be for me to hold on to it and figure that out rather than get rid of it and then feel like maybe I've made a mistake and I shouldn't have done that. This is a visual representation of Natasha Denona and all of my Natasha Denona palettes. Here's what's gonna happen. And this is gonna be its own separate video. But I, as you can see, use these so much more as single shades and I pop them out. And I don't think there's any point, this might drive some of you wild. I don't think that there is any point for me to keep these in here like this and in the color stories that they were in when all I'm doing is moving them around. All I am. So my plan is I'm gonna pull all of these out. I'm not gonna label them. I'm just gonna allow them to be free in my collection. Then I'm going to go through my singles. This will be a separate video. Watch everything, get rid of things that are too similar to be like too similar and that could be considered duplicate. Hold on to the things that I really love. There are parts of these palettes that I like more than other parts of these palettes, and I'm never just using them as a whole. And I actually think that using them as singles and trying to rotate them into other things is going to be the best way for me to appreciate my Natasha Denona palettes. So it's this one, the 28 pan green, the Metropolis, the gold palette. I just think that's the best way for me to get it. The only one I'm a little bit on the fence about is the gold palette, but even then I'm gonna hold on to all of the packaging, so in theory there could be a moment where I figure out what goes where and maybe I still have a whole palette left. But like I said, I just think that the reality of it is these are gonna be better as singles, and like holding on to these palettes and keeping these large palettes in my eyeshadow drawer, mostly when I open them, like if they're mostly missing, I don't want to use this as a palette. And it's also happening in the other one. Like I wouldn't open this and go, yeah, I can use that as a palette because some of it's gone, and I would just be wondering, well, what's gone? What's gone? Maybe I would want to use that instead. So I think that's what makes the most sense to me. And that makes me a little nervous to say, but I just think that is what's right. And I feel much better about that than letting go of the Hindash palette, because things are moving around and things are going to get disorganized. But I think in the end, after going through all of them as singles and maybe not having all of the Natasha Denona shades that I have now, will allow me to actually use them more, to be quite honest with you. I'm getting rid of those. Everything else, I'm just going to be really discerning as I move through the next year, figuring out what is allowed to stay and what really doesn't sing to me the way it should for it to deserve a place in my collection. That was the end of my filming time. I still have to record an intro and an outro, but we've made all the choices, and that's the hard. Well, if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I would love to have you subscribe. I would really appreciate a like. And again, I'm on patreon.com if you'd like to support me there, but no pressure to do so. I just really appreciate that you watched today. And I hope everyone's having a safe and happy little holiday end of the year season. Please be safe if you are going to celebrate New Year's Eve this weekend and get up to some debauchery. Just make sure you're staying safe. That's all I want for you, and I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Remember to follow your haute, and you will find me. I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye. Forever.